Beacon Press Audio presents Racial Innocence, Unmasking Latino Anti-Black Bias and the Struggle for Equality by Tanya Katerí Hernández. This audiobook is narrated by Almarie Guerra. Published by Beacon Press Audio, 2022. Chapter 1. What is Latino anti-blackness? Even before I understood the word nigger, I heard negro in Spanish. José Luis Wilson, Afro-Latino educator. Wherever the Negro goes, he remains a Negro. Frantz Fanon. Latinos can be racist. Some may be startled to hear this. After all, our national conversations about racism appear oblivious to this fact. And some civil rights leaders are also seemingly reticent to air the dirty laundry of the bias that exists within communities of color, lest it distract from the real racism of white supremacy. However, all the while, Afro-Latinos and African Americans suffer from discrimination at the hands of Latinos who claim that their racially mixed cultures immunize them from being racist. I call this the Latino racial innocence cloak that veils Latino complicity in U.S. racism. In turn, public ignorance about Latino anti-blackness undermines the ability to fully address the interwoven complexities of U.S. racism in developing public policies and enforcing anti-discrimination law. Judges, in addition to the rest of society, need to learn that Latinos can be prejudiced toward both Afro-Latinos and African Americans. The pervasiveness of anti-Black violence, still so pronounced decades after the achievements of the civil rights movement, cannot be readily understood nor addressed with the traditional sole focus on white, non-Hispanic, non-Latino white actors. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, non-Hispanic whites are declining in number. The 2020 census reported the first decline in the white non-Hispanic population since the introduction of the national survey. White non-Hispanics now represent 57.8% of the population, down 8.6% from the 2010 census. Moreover, white non-Hispanics are predicted to decline to 15% by 2060. The continued vibrancy of white supremacist attitudes thus cannot be explained exclusively by the perspectives of the declining number of white non-Hispanics. The ongoing upkeep and silent acceptance of anti-blackness implicates many other racial and ethnic groups in the United States, as well as across the globe. Exploring Latino complicity in anti-blackness is particularly helpful. As a multi-hued ethnic group, Latinos are often viewed as free of racism, or, at the very least, free of its most exclusionary forms. Examining how anti-blackness still does manage to manifest itself among the racially mixed rainbow of Latinos, who currently comprise 18.7% of the population and are predicted to increase to 28% by 2060, is thereby a powerful illustration of how people of color can fortify racism. All the same, when I tell people that part of my research is on the topic of anti-blackness in Latino communities, and explain, yes, that is a thing, light-skinned and fair-skinned Latinos often react by telling me that most Latinos and African Americans get along and frequently live in neighboring areas or the very same buildings. In other words, they're conveying that they do not believe anti-blackness is a real issue in Latino communities like it is in white non-Hispanic communities. While it would certainly be ideal if Latinos were all truly colorblind and incapable of committing racist acts, As an Afro-Latina myself, I do not have the luxury of indulging in the fantasy of a Latino racial mixture utopia. As I share in the epilogue, the visibility of my family's Black ancestry means I literally have skin in the game of accurately assessing the operation of racism in its many forms. Consequently, this book excavates the voices of Afro-Latinos and African Americans who have actually experienced Latino anti-Black bias, in an effort to help disrupt the public ignorance and Latino disinclination to grapple with Latino anti-Blackness. The need for such an intervention is usefully demonstrated by a consideration of the Latino adoration of Afro-Cuban queen of salsa, Celia Cruz. When Celia Cruz died on July 16, 2003, her wake in Miami attracted at least 100,000 fans. Later, when her body was brought to New York City, thousands waited to see her body, exceeding the crowds that honored Judy Garland and Ed Sullivan at the very same funeral home. Anyone viewing the news footage of all the racially diverse Latinos expressing their love for Celia would find it difficult to envision any of those mourners as also harboring anti-Black bias. Indeed, the Latino mourners themselves would be quick to denounce such an accusation. And yet, absolute love for the art that Black individuals create can coexist with a hierarchical impulse to generally denigrate Blacks as intellectually inferior and socially dangerous. This dualism is readily apparent in the profound U.S. worship of African-American pop star Beyoncé, simultaneous with the pervasive killing of unarmed African Americans, presumed inherently dangerous. However, anti-Black racism that arises outside the unfortunately familiar U.S. frame of white non-Hispanic versus African American bias can be mystifying for many people. This is in part because U.S. Blackness is primarily conceived of as embodied solely by English-speaking African Americans. In turn, anti-Blackness is popularly understood as a uniquely U.S. phenomenon affecting those English-speaking African Americans, with occasional recognition of the racialized struggles of Africans and others in the African diaspora. This skewed vision is only compounded by how Latino communities themselves marginalize or entirely erase the existence of Afro-Latinos. Notably, the seminal volume, The Afro-Latino Reader, History and Culture in the United States, highlights this marginalization in its opening definition. Afro-Latino? What's an Afro-Latino? Who is an Afro-Latino? The term befuddles us because we are accustomed to thinking of Afro and Latino as distinct from each other and mutually exclusive. One is either Black or Latino. The short answer is that Afro-Latinos belong to both groups. They are people of African descent in Mexico, Central and South America, and the Spanish-speaking Caribbean, and by extension those of African descent in the United States whose origins are in Latin America and the Caribbean. So, to be clear, Afro-Latinos are simultaneously ethnically Latino and racially Black. In daily life, few people are preoccupied with how and when ethnic identity differs from racial identity. Indeed, there are those who view the concepts as the same, or at least are cognizant of how much they can overlap as social constructs. Some researchers even prefer the hyphenated term ethno-racial to refer to the overlap. But for Afro-Latinos living at the intersection of Blackness and Latinidad, a vision of a pan-ethnic Latino community, the two terms usefully highlight important differences. As Afro-Peruvian writer Kayla Popuchet Quesada notes, all Latinos are nationally oppressed, but not all Latinos are racially or ethnically oppressed. Generally speaking.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?